Good morning. Hello, Flosstube. This is my Flosstube number 3. My name is Janine McGowan. I designed cross stitch for the blue flower, and I'm going to talk about cross stitch today and also a little bit about a puppy. So thank you for joining me, and thank you everyone who sent encouraging words, comments after last Flosstube. So many of you were kind enough to share pets that you'd had and what they had meant to you, and that was very special and very much appreciated. So thank you all for doing that. Today is July 4th. Here, and certainly in many places, what we would normally do on July 4th, family gatherings, that sort of thing, is affected by the world we're living in right now. And so we're having more distant celebrations from each other than we would normally do, and we're not able to gather as families and groups in the same way that we would have in previous years. But I'm hopeful that in a different way of observing the holiday, we're able to give some thought to the ideals of our country and what we are meant to stand for and how we can better achieve those ideals. So I hope that whatever you're doing today, it is healthy and renewing for you, that you stay safe and also are a little bit inspired and hopeful for the future, perhaps, and possibly get some stitching in as well. On to stitching, what I'm working on. First, I have an update on my whip from last time. This is Maria Casson from Lucy Beam Lemon Stitches. This is the one that I had altered to update it after the death of my beautiful greyhound named Casson. So I've made good progress. This is the more than halfway point, and you can see the bottom border wrapping around down here. So I'm doing actually pretty well. I'll get it back in the center there. But I'm very pleased with the way the greyhounds have come out. I've loved the colors. This is just a really fun stitch for me and a meaningful stitch. So it's been delightful to work on. I particularly love these twined borders here. At first it looked a little difficult, but once you get sort of into the flow of it, it's actually very easy and very satisfying. So this has been lots of fun to work on, and I'm really enjoying it. Now, that's been my whip of focus. I haven't had as much stitching time as I'd hoped because of the new puppy. More about that later. But when I have, I've worked almost exclusively on that. However, I do have a new release to show you. So this one is a piece that I did for Crazy Annie Stitchin'. She has an online shop and she does a Christmas in July event. So I had been contemplating a holiday release that I was going to do, and then when she asked me to do Christmas in July, it was a good idea to test the concept a little bit. So this is what I've come up with. This is my little Christmas cat. He's got a little Christmas sweater with a snowman and a little festive color holiday border. It's slightly difficult to see the color of the linen. It's a Picture This Plus linen that's actually slightly blue, and then a lady dot chenille trim on the outside. Unfortunately, I finished this during quarantine, so I had to do the finishing, which is why the corners are not quite what they ought to be, but the little chenille covers a multitude of wobbles. So if you want to get this design, you'll need to contact Crazy Annie Stitching, and I'll put the information on the screen and also in the show notes so that you have it. But basically, if you go to her Facebook page, you can sign up to receive the newsletter, and then I believe on both the Facebook page and the newsletter will be the information about ordering this chart should you want to receive it. So this is the first one. I said that it was a trial run, so I think one of my holiday releases this year, and the idea that inspired this, would be like the family photo Christmas cards, only using different animals that have appeared in my work with their Christmas sweaters and paraphernalia. And so I thought that would be fun. Hopefully that will come together for a release later in the year. But in the meantime, got your little Christmas cat with his Christmas sweater and the snowman and the cat's thrilled expression at wearing a Christmas sweater. So there we go. Now, I'm flashing also back in this section to a design that I did. People commented last time that they enjoyed seeing something that I had designed. And so this time I'm bringing up the very first one, that I designed ever. This was, I think, the second thing I stitched as an adult. I'm going to scoot over here a little bit so we can get a good view. Here we go. This was for our family. You can see, let me hold it up this way. There's my husband with his head that looks a bit like a thumb because at the time he wore a goatee and shaved his head, and I didn't know how to do that in a way that didn't look weird, so he just looks a little weird. There's my son in his Halloween Spider-Man costume. A little closer view on that. He loved Spider-Man, always loved Spider-Man, and I would hear other parents talk about how, you know, this year what are we doing for Halloween? And I always felt a little guilty because throughout the year, not just at Halloween, we simply bought a bigger Spider-Man costume every time he outgrew his. And so he was Spider-Man for several years, almost nonstop. So that's always special for me to see. We have our animals at the time. This is Ninkasi here. This is Barley. That's Pilsner and Porter. That's Guinness and Moggy, my very first cat after college. And some of them are still with us, some of them are not, but they're all memorialized here. So that was the very first thing I did. It was personal to us. We had our school flags, we had a little magnolia tree and a golden chain tree because those were the trees we had in our yard. And so this was the very first thing that I designed. So flashback time. On to the stash spotlight for this week. The thing that I am excited about this week is from Scattered Seed Samplers. Let me look at backwards. Miss Matilda. I mean, look at that cat. I think I'm going to change the stitching on this one, the thread colors, because, you know, drunk with power, that's me. But I'm going to make it more like our cat Pilsner. It looks very fluffy, like he is. And so I'm going to try that. And then I love this little grinning pumpkin scissor pin thing. I might try and do that, although my finishing is not great, but I can give it a go. And since it's a Halloween thing, perhaps it will be okay if it's a little bit wonky. I hope, anyway. As to why I am focusing on Halloween pattern, Halloween costume for my son, it's because I'm working on finishing the last of my designs for fall release. One of them is a fall release, fall themed, and that's off in finishing, but the Halloween themed one has been lagging with what happened with Cassie and just in general. I've been grinding on that one a little bit, but it's actually getting close to where I'm picking thread colors. I'm almost done. I just need to get it stitched very, very rapidly, but that's probably why my head is in Halloween so much right now, even though it's the height of summer here in northern Nevada. Beautiful sunny day, if you like that sort of thing, and we're in the mountains, so dry, clear air, cool nights, not bad at all. On to the world around, charging through this list this morning, I tell you. So last week I talked about the California quail, which I love. This week I have a little video I caught of some California quail with their adolescent, teenage child, anyway, the new babies who've come out. I don't usually see them in the yard until they've grown big enough to fly over the fence. So I have seen the tiny little fluffball babies and they're adorable. But these ones are a little bit bigger because they're big enough to come up and over, and they're just fun to see. The quail are starting to reform in large groups now, and so groups of 30 and 40 coming through with the little ones and with multiple adults sharing the duties of guarding and watching out for them, which is something I miss. I know my son's a little bit older, but certainly when he was younger it was very helpful to have multiple adults sharing the child watching load, and I know for so many people now that's so stressful not to have that. So that will be another thing to look forward to in the future when we're able to gather differently, gather together again, even if it's not quite the way it was. It would at least be better. The other thing that I'm very much into this week for the world around, or the past few weeks, is the sunrise safari. I don't know if any of you have seen that, but on YouTube there is a channel, and I think it's comprised of several potentially game preserves in South Africa, and so it goes on for several hours every morning, and you can watch it later in the day or you can listen to it live in the morning. I start work pretty early, so I usually catch the last 2 hours of it. But it's really lovely just to have on in the background of my computer these gamekeepers. I think because they're used to spending all their time out among wildlife, not wanting to spook it, certainly not wanting to anger or interfere with it. They just have these very calming voices while they describe amazing things, and you can really tell how much they love the world that they get to interact with on a daily basis. And we get the privilege of seeing animals in a natural habitat that we wouldn't be able to see without a lot of significant and expensive travel. So I've very much enjoyed that. Sunrise Safari on YouTube, if you feel like it, and some great moments from that one to start your day. Next section, questions from viewers. I've had a couple of questions from people. Cynthia had asked what chart software I use to design in, and I use Pattern Maker. I know a lot of people have different ones that they use. That's just the one that I had come across, so it's what I'm used to, and that's what I use. I'm very happy with it. But I've never tried anything else, so I don't really have anything to compare it to. She had also asked about how I got my designs out there, and I don't really know how to answer that. I'm still not feeling like I'm really out there at all, but I'm fortunate, very fortunate to have had a good relationship with a home shop in Portland when I lived there for so long, with Janine, who runs that shop. And Acorns and Threads in Portland is a wonderful store. I miss it a lot. But she was kind enough to encourage me as I was starting to design, and then also to give me an initial trunk show in the store and help me learn a little bit of the ropes. I'm still learning quite a bit. There's a lot to learn. But she helped me get started there, helped me get my first experience in front of people, and then give me a little bit of confidence before I went to market for the first time, not this year, but the previous year. So that's essentially my origin story, for what it's worth, and you've seen the first thing that I designed, although that was for us personally and not for sale. So that's the information. I don't know if there's more that I can add to that. I certainly hope to do better at getting my charts out there and getting connected with stitchers around the world, but that's a growth area for me. So it's something that I'm going to be continuing to work on. And on that note, if anyone has any questions for me or anything that they'd like me to talk about in this format, I'd love to hear from you. Or if you just want to share something, I'd love to hear from you as well. Something you like, something you don't like. Let me know, and I would love to have that feedback, and also like to connect with you, since virtual connections are about the only kind that we can do at this moment. So I appreciate all of you who take the time to reach out. Let me know what you're thinking, what you're curious about, and what you like. I hope to see more of it. Best thing this week, no surprise, is that we have a puppy, which is also the most exhausting thing this week. And we have a new greyhound puppy. I had only ever seen one greyhound puppy before in person in my life, so that's been very interesting. In some ways, she is so much like an adult greyhound, and yet in some ways so not, especially the first week that we had her. It's been almost 2 weeks now. She was more of a loosely connected collection of limbs than an actual dog, but she's growing at an astonishing rate, and she's a love. We're getting used to her, and we're getting adjusted to life with a puppy, because that's a change for all of us. None of us have ever had a puppy before. She's been great for us. She's been especially great for our other dog. He's a dachshund mix, and he was very close with our dog Ninkasi, who died, and so he was quite sad and took a little bit of adjusting to the new puppy, but now it's like he's shed years off his age. He loves playing with her, he loves chasing with her, and he wears her out to where she can't handle anymore. So that is my best new thing this week. I'm going to put a little selection of puppy photos at the end here for anyone who wants to stay and see what a greyhound puppy looks like. I'm sure it won't be the last time that there are puppy photos, but I will try and keep it contained and not the whole of my Flosstube being about the beautiful puppy. Thank you very much for taking some time. I know holiday weekends are busy, but I appreciate you're taking some time to sit with me, and I look forward to hearing from you in the future. I hope you get some good stitching, and I will see you again in a couple of weeks. Bye.